This episode is brought to you by CBS. DMV is a brand new workplace comedy turning misery into magic and chaos into comedy. Starring Harriet Dyer and Tim Meadows, DMV is here to serve you laughs. Watch Mondays at 8:30, 7:30 Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
And today it is NWSL, the final game before Decision Day weekend begins. It's the Champions League and everybody's favorite, in particular, Allie's favorite. We're previewing international break that's about to kick off. What's up, Allie? Whoop, whoop. I want everybody to know, Allie, for those of you who are not watching, Allie is sitting here in our Orlando Pride shirt, as they promised, wearing a different piece of football clothing, garments, in every single recording. And I stupidly, it was like a little blurry when you first logged on, and I was like, is that a Chelsea shirt? Because you see, like, if it's blurry, the logo kind of looks similar.
I've never been more offended in my life.
Tell everybody what you said.
That I wouldn't wear a Chelsea shirt even for charity.
Yeah. You said, that's the sign that I've been kidnapped.
Yep.
I would not do this. Not even for charity is wild, Allie.
Nope.
Fair enough. And I apologize. I did dress in sports, but I didn't dress in football. I dressed in American football. I think I got confused.
In hand egg, but there you go.
Either way, we're going to get onto this really quickly because we've got a lot to talk about. We're not going to talk about the Subway Cup. That happened because there was no WSL this weekend. The Subway Cup was happening. It's just the group stages. We're going to cover that as it gets later on. And so let's just do it. We got a lot of NWSL to kick it off with, into international break, and then into the Champions League. So let's get to it.
So over to the NWSL, and it was the week before the final decision day, and so much happened. So much has been decided, but there is so much yet to be decided. Oh yes, you think just because certain teams have clinched a spot that it's all done and dusted, but we will get into why that is not the case. But before we get into the actual action of the weekend, we have to talk about something that got brought to our attention by a very loyal listener/viewer, Rhiannon, our Rangers fan, because there was a bit of an incident between Jonas Eidevall and Ella Massa. So their two teams took on each other this weekend.
I will add, Ella Massa in now the assistant role again, who was an assistant at Chicago, took over as head coach, now is back to being assistant coach. We've covered that on the podcast. We don't need to get into our feelings about that. But just to highlight, I feel like that's an important piece of this story.
Yeah, some incidents happened, and Ella made her feelings known on the socials. I will read what she said because it really does paint a very worrying picture, which is, I have been in this game for a long time, and this I simply do not understand. Jonas, your assistants have my number, so please call me to explain. Why at 3-0 up you needed to send your player over to our huddle? In what world, in any world, does this make sense? And then when I came to ask you why, you wouldn't acknowledge me and said, why is she speaking to me? Have more respect for the game and for all of us in it.
First of all, well said by Ella. Second of all, I mean, there's like a first, a second, a third. There's a lot of things, a lot of points here. It wasn't just a 3-0. That wasn't the final score. The final score was 6-1. Like, this was a kind of a destruction. And so I think that puts everything in context. And for me, there's 2 points to this. There's the first of like, yeah, it's kind of to keep it PG, a jerk move to send your player over to the other team's huddle when you're up 3-0. For sure. That is annoying. Is that something for us to sit here and super gripe about? No, honestly, like, that bothers me, but not to the point for us to really gripe about it. It's then the reaction that Ella outlines in her post, that she then went to approach Jonas about it, to talk about it after the game. And his reaction was disparaging. Like, I will not acknowledge you as a coach, as a fellow expert in this field, as a fellow anything. And as you said, we talked about this before we hit record, Allie. As you said, this is not the first incident with another coach, and they have all happened to be female coaches. Everybody's flashing back to Emma Hayes.
I was going to say, Emma Hayes is obviously the big one. There was always talk about his relationship with his assistant coach, now Arsenal's head coach, Renee. So it's definitely a pattern with Jonas. It's a very worrying pattern for somebody that is in the women's game. It does concern me that it does seem to be with female coaches. He has the biggest issue. And I'm glad that she called it out because it's just not right.
Yeah. As I said, it's like less about the first part that bothers me. It's the second part. Like even if it's a status thing, if it's like, well, you're an assistant coach, I'm a head coach, who freaking cares? You can still speak to each other as equals as coaches in this game. I'm happy and proud of Ella for calling it out. I wish it was getting more attention. It's really not getting as much attention, I think, as it deserves, honestly. Maybe if the cameras caught it, like they caught the Emma Hayes and Jonas of it all, we would be talking about it more. But yeah, really, really, really disappointing. And sadly not totally shocking.
I was going to say, it's always sad but not surprising.
All right, let's move it along, Allie, and let's talk about some other games this weekend. Because headed into this weekend, only 3 teams had clinched a playoff spot. There were 5 playoff spots remaining. Kansas City, Spirit, and Pride were the 3 teams that had clinched already. Kansas City obviously had clinched the Shield and home field advantage. Spirit had clinched home field advantage. And the Pride just a playoff spot. And then so much went down after this weekend. There is just 1 playoff spot remaining. 4 teams clinched this weekend. Seattle, San Diego, Portland, and Gotham. So now 7 total teams have clinched. There's just 1 spot remaining. And 2 teams vying for it because the rest below that are eliminated.
Ooh, see? The drama is happening. Decision day is going to be decisioning. It's going to be WSL after darking.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a plea to everybody who's like, if you're like a little disappointed, we're like, oh, like I kind of wish we were going into decision day with, like 4 playoff spots up for grabs. There is still, as Allie already mentioned, a lot to play for. Yes, there's only 1 playoff spot up for grabs, which, by the way, the scenario of that is absolutely wild, which we will get into. There's a lot to play for because, well, playoff spots have been clinched. Where you are in the 1 through 8 rankings is still basically 100% up for grabs. And essentially everybody's trying to play for, well, obviously the home field advantage, but also to just not have to go to Kansas City. Like, the goal here is to not be 8th, basically. But before we get into that, let's talk about a big game from this past weekend, Allie.
Yes, big game of the week. We talked about them last week. We've got to talk about it again. Is Gotham have done it. They've clinched it. Like we said they were going to. They said it was in their destiny, and they did it.
That's right. Yeah, it was the biggest game of this past weekend. We highlighted it last week on the pod. Gotham was in 4th place with 35 points coming into this weekend. Racing was in 8th place with 33 points, so 2-point difference. And the scenario looked like this. Gotham was going to clinch a playoff berth with a draw or a win. Racing needed a win to clinch. And it was 2-2 at the end of the day in Harrison, New Jersey. Gotham clinched a playoff spot with that draw. And it had a bit of a feel to a playoff game. Like, both teams were really going for it. These are 2 teams that have explosive offenses. And I feel like almost a 2-2 scoreline doesn't quite indicate just how back and forth this was of a game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very quick before we get into the game itself, we want to talk about the Racing Louisville are the bridesmaids, never the bride, when it comes to playoffs, when it comes to the playoff races, because as it's been highlighted, they have finished 9th in the last 4 seasons of the NWSL. So they've missed out 4 times.
Especially even like last year, finishing in 9th. And then there is a possibility that happens again this year. And this was brought up on the pregame show of this game, and they were talking about what implication does this maybe have on how a team performs under pressure. Because at this point, you can almost start to consider these playoff games because you have to, it's, for example, this coming weekend, it's kind of win or go home, if you will. We'll get into exactly what that looks like. But they were talking about this, and it's kind of like the classic question of having been there before and feeling comfortable in that pressure versus a team like Racing Louisville that hasn't overcome that hurdle. Gotham have done that. Racing haven't yet. Mentioning the 9th place 4 years in a row. Do we think that impacted them in this game? The end result being 2-2. Gotham won at first, Racing equalized, then Racing went up 2-1, and Rose Lavelle had the final dagger of an equalizer for Gotham in the 85th minute to draw it even 2-2. Do you think that everything I just outlined played any role in this match?
I think there's got to be something in there. There's got to be something about it's in their heads, because they must know that stat. They must know that they've come close so many times and that...
Well, they know they haven't made the playoffs, that's for sure.
Exactly. So they must know that. So I think there's got to be some sort of mentality in there. Do I think it affects their ability to get to the playoffs? No, I don't think it's that sort of stumbling block. Gotham know how to win a championship and Racing don't. I don't think it's that, but I do think there's probably, I'm going to throw it to another sport, and I believe it's Boston. For years, it was the curse of...
Oh, you're going baseball.
I am going baseball, the curse of the Bambino. And that went on for decades, and then, and then the running joke was what curse when they finally did it. So I don't think it's that bad, but I do think, there's probably a little bit of a legend within.
See, I don't think it affects it at all. Yes, Racing Louisville are a young team. Yes, it's not like they have these, it's not like they have a Rose Lavelle, for example, that's been in very pressure-filled situations on the international stage and has also been in an NWSL final, for example. Like, she's played in pressure moments in both of those situations. But I just really, when we're looking at this game, I don't think that they played like it affected them. They didn't play scared at all. Gotham is a good team. Gotham is a really good team that's also, for the record, not even at their peak right now because they're playing without Ann-Katrin Berger. And I think Racing played them really well. They had them on the ropes. They almost took Gotham to the end, almost took the win 2-1. We could sit here and analyze, well, they let a goal in the last 5 minutes of this game. Perhaps that's nerves. Perhaps that's them not knowing how to close it out. But I don't think that's what it is. These are two teams that are very similar. They're both going to play really high. They're both going to attack. That's going to leave them vulnerable on the back end. And that happened to both of these teams today. And when you look at Racing Louisville, they've allowed more goals than they have scored this year. They have a -4 goal differential. And that's going to be their demise if they don't make the playoffs, or if they make the playoffs and then lose out in some type of way. And that was the demise against Gotham, period, the end. It wasn't some kind of suddenly this is coming about. No, this is a team that they can score a lot of goals, but guess what? They're also going to concede a lot of goals, and that's what bit them. The same thing that's bit them all year, bit them again against Gotham. And for me, it's almost, dare I say, as simple as that.
So what you're telling me is they're the Tottenham of the NWSL, because that's what happened to Tottenham last season, is the fact that they conceded a lot of goals, but they scored a lot of goals, but it didn't quite average out.
Plug your ears, Tottenham fans, but they're the Tottenham, but they also play a lot prettier brand of football than Tottenham. But that's not hard to do. Okay, unplug your ears, Tottenham fans.
So let's talk about the team that has clinched, which is Gotham. We talked about it last week, obviously AKB not being there and what a presence she is. How is this affecting? Are we seeing this in Gotham?
Oh, big time. Yeah. And like you said, we talked about it last week, but it's worth mentioning again because you could literally see on the field in this game exactly how not having Ann-Katrin Berger affects this team, because AKB is one of those goalkeepers that does really well playing high, and that affords Gotham the ability to have an aggressive back four. They play a high line. And the reason they're not at their peak right now is because with a high line, you have the benefit of Ann-Katrin Berger behind you, who can play high, who can sweep everything up, who can come up out of her box and use her feet. And now it's Hogan in goal with who is the backup, and you could literally see miscommunication moments on the field between Emily Sonnett and Hogan, when Sonnett's literally screaming motion. You can see her with her hands motioning for Hogan, like, come out, come out. And there were some almost moments for Gotham FC literally because of those miscommunications. So you can see it. It leaves Gotham even more vulnerable because they still continue to play aggressive because that's their brand of soccer. They should stick to it. But that for sure is going to be a weak spot moving forward into the playoffs for Gotham.
Okay, let's look ahead to the final day, to Decision Day as it is being dubbed, and we'll look at what other teams have to play for, but let's talk about the one remaining playoff spot that is going on. At the moment, Racing Louisville control their own destiny, right? They win, they've done it. They're just in, and then where the chips may fall happens from there. But there is an interesting scenario.
Yeah, so let's set this up because it's Racing Louisville right now in 8th place with 34 points and North Carolina Courage in 9th place with 32 points. All of the teams below that have been eliminated. So Houston, Angel City, Utah, Bay FC, Chicago. That's place 10 through 14, all been eliminated. So it is literally down to Racing Louisville and North Carolina Courage, who sit 2 points away from each other. So let's talk about these scenarios for clinching, Allie, because I feel like this is fun because it's just going to get more and more wild as we continue to talk about this. So Racing plays at home, hosting Bay FC. North Carolina plays at home at Wake Med Soccer Park, hosting Gotham FC. And I kind of mentioned this to you before. I feel like on the surface, you can see that and be like, well, Gotham already clinched a playoff spot. Like, maybe they won't go full force. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Gotham are currently in 7th place right now. They have 36 points. That means they're only 2 points above the 8th place right now, which means that there is a possibility they could end up in 8th place. If they lose and Racing win, Gotham could be in 8th place and have to go into Kansas City for the first round of the playoffs. So Gotham will be coming out hard against North Carolina. There is no question about that. So if you look at it this way, Racing kind of have the advantage, but also, as you said, let's talk about the scenarios because Racing control their own destiny. If they win, they're in. But then it gets complicated if they don't win, Allie.
Yes, the joy that is. So, if Racing draw and North Carolina win, they will be even on points at 35. And that is the first time we then go into a tiebreaker, and that is goal differential. So that's simple, right? No. So right now, their goal differential is just a difference of 1. Racing Louisville is at -4. North Carolina is at -3. So it would depend on the scoreline. Okay, so if that is then tied, we go to the next tiebreak, which is the total wins, which, if it's the scenario we've just said, they would be even on.
Yeah, like if Racing draw and North Carolina win, then they're even on wins.
So we then go to the third tiebreak, which is the most goals scored, which again will go down to scoreline.
Yeah, because currently they have both scored the same amount of goals in the season at 34, which is crazy.
So if then, after all of that, we would then go to a fourth tiebreaker, which is head-to-head, and this is where Racing would be the victors.
If it happens to, in some crazy way, go all the way to the fourth tiebreaker, Racing has won a game against North Carolina, and then the two teams drew the other game. So, like you just said, that is why Racing would win out on that. But just for the sake of it, the tiebreak scenarios go all the way through 7. There's 7 different tiebreakers, according to the NWSL website. We've just done the first 4, and let's just do the last 3 just for the heck of it, Allie.
Yeah, so if it had been even like one had taken one and the other had taken the other match, then it would go to the head-to-head most goals scored. And if that was then even, it is the least disciplinary points accumulated. And then if that, for some whatever reason, was even, and this is the dumbest one, I will say, because they obviously clearly go, it's never going to...
No, I don't think this is dumb.
It's never going to get this far. Number 7 is a coin flip for 2 teams or drawing lots if there's 3 or more teams.
I don't think it's dumb at all. It's saying like, hey, we've gone through 6 different tie break scenarios. At this point, we're going to flip a coin. And I think that that's fair.
I think that's heartbreaking.
I don't even think we're going to get to 4 like we just outlined, but we very well could. But we're not getting past 4, obviously, because we know racing has the tiebreak in the head-to-head results. But that is wild. So there's a lot on the line here. Now, we just said racing is hosting Bay FC. We all know Bay FC has had not just a tough season, but like an even tougher end of the season. They've lost 3 out of the last 5. They're kind of on the down and out. Obviously, this is the last game under Albertine Montoya, who will be ending his time with Bay FC after this game. So it does look kind of like racing has the edge because they're hosting Bay and North Carolina is hosting Gotham FC, who we just already mentioned. They still have something to play for. With all this said and done, what do you think is going down with these two teams on decision day and the final standings?
I would say it's Racing's. I think Racing, for me, will take it over Bay. But I don't think it's going to be a big scoreline because we've seen this with Racing. So it's going to be a 2-1, a 1-0.
I can see a situation in which North Carolina beat Gotham, of course. But I would be shocked if Bay FC came in and really played the upsetter to Racing Louisville. And in that case, you just have to sit back and say, well, then they really shouldn't be in the playoffs. Like, because this is a win and in situation. It all hangs in the balance. I think they can do it. If they don't, then we do have to circle back to this pressure conversation for Racing Louisville for sure.
This is my argument because I'm like, having seen what Bay have done, like you said, specifically in the last half of this season, if you knowing what is riding on it can't go in and get that win, then North Carolina deserve that playoff spot.
Okay, so this all comes together on decision day, which is not this coming weekend because remember, international break, which we're about to talk about and very excited about. But it all comes together on, as we know, November 2nd. Decision Day 2025. It just got released. They were holding these times for a long time. It literally just got released what's going down. So listen up very carefully. All but one match will be kicking off at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. Every single match except for one is kicking off at that time. The one singular match that is not kicking off at that time is Kansas City versus San Diego, which will kick off at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific. And then that will be followed by every single other match. Now, that Kansas City Current versus San Diego Wave game at 3 Eastern is going to be on ESPN, ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes, and then all of the other games are on NWSL Plus, except for North Carolina versus Gotham, which is on ESPN. I wish that they were all at 5 Eastern and there wasn't like one standout because as we mentioned, like, yes, Kansas City, they know where they are. They're number 1 in the standings, but San Diego's still vying for where they're going to fall. They're currently in 5th place. But they're tied with 6th place Portland, both with 37 points. Gotham is just 1 point below that. So, you know, if San Diego get beat, that's going to impact the standings and how everybody else feels. But hey, it is what it is. It's better than nothing having all but one game at the same time. I don't know how I'm going to accumulate this many screens to watch them all at the same time, but that is the beauty of Decision Day. And I'm so excited it's back. It happened 2 years ago. It was like the best day of the year. Didn't happen last year, and I'm happy they figured it out again this year. So much on the line. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
To Spain, and Barcelona continue to dominate with another win to keep top spot. Real Madrid have managed to keep 2nd place with their win. Atletico Madrid have now moved up to 4th.
And to France, Lyon are still undefeated with 5 wins out of 5 after a convincing win over Nantes. Paris FC leapfrogs into 2nd with their win, and PSG remain in 3rd.
To Scotland, and a massive 11-0 win for Rangers has helped keep them in the title race. However, Glasgow City's win over rival Celtic have left them being 5 points clear at the top.
And over to Mexico, Tigres sit in 1st with 41 points, just 2 points ahead of Pachuca, and America sit in 3rd with 35 points. The Apertura final games are happening Friday, October 31st and Saturday, November 1st, with some big matches and places on the line for the playoffs.
And finally to Germany. Big wins for Wolfsburg, and Bayern has helped them cement the top 2 places. However, it is much tighter in the race for third. Hoffenheim, Freiburg and Leverkusen are all on 13 points with 4 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses. Now to our international break roundup. We have 2 weeks of the international. Sarah's very excited. I'm less excited, but we will get into why momentarily. Firstly, we have to talk about the heartbreaking news that's just come out that in their match against Cologne, Lena Oberdorf has unfortunately done the dreaded 3 letters. It has been confirmed. It's the same leg that she did it the first time round. Obviously, our thoughts and best wishes are with her, but how heartbreaking.
Yeah, she's like just getting back from it too. Or so it feels. It's heartbreaking. I will say when I first saw it, I was like, is that the other leg? Because that's very common. But no, it's the same one. I just need a moment of that. That's just... she's like one of my favorite players in the world to watch. I'm not trying to talk about how this personally affects me, obviously. This affects her terribly, but it's sad for the entirety of the world of football. It's 2025. There's 2 years until the World Cup. Hopefully she can be back and healthy and in full force by then. But let's move it along, because we're going to talk England and we're going to talk the U.S. women's national team. But I think we're going to start with England, Allie, because as you mentioned, you're not that excited. And it's not just because you claim to not like international break, which we all know you secretly adore international break. And for those listening, Allie is nodding and saying, that's very true, Sarah. You're not super pumped or excited about this England squad, which is wild for a squad that just won back-to-back European championships.
Yeah. So these games, I will explain myself, because also these games are what I've been crying out for so long, in the fact these are just friendlies. These are homecoming games for the Euros winners. There is nothing on the line for these. There is no... it's not League of Nations. There's no World Cup qualifiers riding on it. They are pure friendlies. And Sarina has called up a bunch of youngsters and like some new players that we haven't seen. Breaking news today, as recording on Monday, is that Grace Clinton and Katie Reid are out because they've got some injury niggles that they need to work out on. And Grace Fisk has been called up, and finally, because I've been calling for Grace Fisk to be called up for years, so I'm excited by that. But I know, apart from the centre-back pairing, I could put money on what her squad will be. So she calls up these new exciting players, but they will not get capped and they will not play, even though these games mean nothing.
Yeah, this is what you've been saying to me. It's like, I get it. You're frustrated that you don't get... Well, first of all, I'll say, I don't think you know this, because as you've mentioned, every friendly up until now has been not just that. It's been in preparation for the Euros. So I will give Sarina the grace to say, maybe now we're going to see a lot of the youth. We're going to see a lot of new players, maybe new formations, maybe players in different positions, i.e. Maya Letitia, maybe we'll get to see in a center-back role for the Lionesses. That's another thing I know you have a gripe with. I agree. But it seems like, and I said this to you before we recorded, it seems like you're not the only Lioness fan that is kind of starting to sour and starting to have some opinions, and not in the positive way, about Sarina and her management of this squad, despite the fact that she just won 2 back-to-back European championships and made the finals of a World Cup.
I think she is a wonderful manager. Like, you can't be if you don't, she's won 3 Euros back-to-back, let's not forget, because she won it with the Netherlands. She's
made 2 World Cup finals back-to-back, because it was the Netherlands and then it was England. Yep.
Yeah, 2. So she is a phenomenal manager, but it is frustrating to see, because she is relying on old faithfuls, and unfortunately those players are getting older. You can't rely on them. We've seen surprise retirements. We saw it with Fran Kirby, we saw it with Mary Earps, and we've just seen it with Millie Bright.
I wouldn't go as far as surprise with Millie Bright, but I get what you're saying, yes.
But it is, in the fact that was her centre-back pairing, and then she had to sort of figure it out for the last Euros when she didn't have it. Lucy Bronze was playing on a broken leg, which I know was her decision, and played a lot of minutes. And the big one, and this is the big thing that I have an issue with, is the goalkeeper situation. Because we haven't got a tournament for a little while. We cannot go into another tournament with two uncapped goalkeepers. We cannot.
What you're saying is that we better see Anna Morehouse and Kiara Keating in goal for these friendlies. If we see Hannah Hampton, you're going to have a problem.
Yes, because we cannot go into another tournament with two uncapped goalkeepers. I'm thinking back to when I first started following England. The goalkeepers were Karen Bardsley, Carly Telford, and Siobhan Chamberlain, and they all had caps. Granted, Karen Bardsley had the most because she was England #1, but they all had caps. And so when Karen Bardsley went down injured in the 2019 World Cup, we had Carly Telford, who was capped. We had Siobhan Chamberlain came in, who was capped. And this is for me is the biggest thing, that because this is what we've asked for. These friendlies are literally the homecoming games for the Euros squad that won the Euros. They mean nothing in terms of the results. Yeah. Please, I'm begging you, Sarina, cap one of them. Have Hannah Hampton play against Brazil in Manchester and then have Anna Morehouse play against Australia in Derby. I beg of you.
I would have Anna Morehouse play one game and have Kiara Keating play the other game.
I would too, but I don't think she'll do that. Because I don't think she'll do that.
All right, let's talk about, before we move on from England, the Maya Le Tissier of it all.
Maya Le Tissier, who has been, and the oracle of women's football, Ian Wright has even said it, is arguably the best centre-back in the WSL right now. She is the best English centre-back in the world right now.
Yeah, for how she's playing, I think that's feels pretty inarguable right now.
So when Sarina was asked about this, because obviously Millie Bright, centre-back, announced her retirement, Leah Williamson, centre-back, injured, Sarina's response was, well, we see her more as a right-back in our setup, which has got everybody going, heh?
I'm kind of going, huh? Why? Why? Is it because you're playing a 3-back? Because that could be the only reason this makes sense to me. Otherwise, it does not make sense to me. It made more sense to me that Alex Greenwood was being shifted between a center back and a left back role. That made more sense because she can and has played both positions. Maya Le Tissier is not a right back.
Nope. And to your point, the Manchester United social media person put up a picture of Maya Le Tissier saying she has played 103 appearances for Manchester United, all of them at centre-back.
I think I saw that post, actually. Yeah, I mean, we were talking before with the recording, and I was like, you mentioned that you said, this is as crazy as the Rachel Daly situation, Rachel Daly playing left back. And I was like, I think this actually makes less sense than Rachel Daly playing left back. Genuinely.
It doesn't make sense. And it's you need to start building centre-back pairings that will work together. And if you have one of the greatest English centre-backs fit, raring to go, why are you playing them at right back when, let's be honest, she won't get minutes because that's Lucy Bronze's position?
Well, the only thing that I can kind of think that might explain this is if Sarina has seen Leah Williamson and Maya Le Tissier as a center back pairing that just simply won't work. And Leah Williamson is the captain of the squad. She will be playing center back. It's a simple matter of who will be playing alongside her. And Sarina Figman has seen Maya Le Tissier and Leah Williamson, and for whatever reason said, this doesn't work. Period. The end. But even so, don't see why, especially with Leah Williamson hurt, get her minutes at center back. Maybe she's, instead of a backup right back, maybe she's a backup center back. And should something go down or Leah Williamson get hurt or whatever, hey, look who you have coming in off of the bench. That's a pretty solid center back to be coming in off of the bench. It just, yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens, but that's been my only gripe so far with Sarina. It seems that you all have more, but it's hard to be mad at a coach who's won you back-to-back European championships. All right, well, should we move it along into the U.S. Women's National Team to a coach that has been doing exactly what you want Sarina to do?
Correct, yes. Let's talk about the Emma Hayes of it all, because there's definitely been some, I would say, surprise call-ups. Good mixture. She's still trying to find that combination that she wants.
What are your surprises in here, Allie? Say surprise call-ups. Hit me. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because, we talk about this all the time in our chats. And for me, Tim is the one that says a lot. And I always agree with him. So I'm going to...
so you're just going to defer to that right now?
I am going to defer to him. I think it's more of who's not been called up.
Okay, continue.
So if we're watching American football as we are, then Sam Starr not getting a call up was a bit weird, I will have to say. I thought league-wise, she's done well.
I like the defenders that are called up here. Okay, so you got Jordan Bugg, Seattle Reign, very young, very talented. I love to see that youth being called up. Emily Fox, that makes sense. Lily Reel, massive rookie for Gotham FC in that outside back position. Again, Tara McCowan, again, huge for Washington Spirit, very young. Avery Patterson, huge for Houston Dash. Emily Sams, we've talked about her before and how great she's been with Orlando. Absolutely locked down. I mean, Emily Sonnet. Sonnet's playing the NWSL for a long time now, and she's having one of the most complete seasons she's ever had. And then Kennedy Wesley getting her first ever call-up, hopefully her first ever cap, San Diego Wave defender. These all feel kind of immovable to me. And you mentioned, like, you wish Serena was calling up a lot of more youth. This is youth. This is a lot of youth for the U.S. Women's National Team. And so I have no problem with it. I absolutely love it.
Can we talk about my issue with youth?
What is your issue with youth? As a whole or in football?
No, Olivia Moultrie getting a call up still is an issue for me. It's still an issue for me because you have an under system for a reason.
You're saying you think she should be on a youth squad?
Yes. I still think it still doesn't sit right with me. It still doesn't. I'm like, there is so much more development to go.
Yeah, she's 20 years old. She very well could be on the U23 team. Maybe it would be good for her. But
I feel the same about Lily Johannes as well.
No, I don't feel that way at all. I get why they're both called up. Lily Johannes, like, I get what you're saying, but if somebody's already at the level of play them there. Lily Johannes is like the best midfielder on the field when she steps foot on the field. She is a massive talent, and I would argue that she's going to actually develop more coming into training camp, learning from Emma Hayes, playing against these players than she would being the best player on the field in U23. I think that would develop her more. If she's ready for it, she's proven that she's ready for it, and so why not? I think it would be a detriment to her game to not pull her up to the senior squad.
It gives me an ick, and I will stand by that. It gives me an ick.
It gives you an ick because of their... Well, so Olivia Moultrie's 20. I think maybe what you're referencing is the Lily Johannes being an under 18 in a very adult environment, which we've seen go wrong many a time.
I'm like, one more training camp in an under.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, we should be talking about the fact that she's by that, you're basically also saying that she shouldn't be playing professional soccer over in Europe either, because she's in that environment 24/7 on a day-to-day basis with her club as well.
It's different.
Is it though? I think it's worse for club.
If she was playing in the NWSL, we would have the same argument. But in Europe, it's different.
No.
Because we have a different setup. We have a different setup.
We've talked about this though. Like when the Yates report came out, we were like, "This is not NWSL specific. It's not. It's worldwide, and that includes Europe."
Then
even despite your super special setup, like it's still happening there.
Then you're right then. Yeah. I don't like it. I do not like it.
And you have fair reasons to not like it.
I do not like it. So I still think they should be in the unders. I do. And that's...
And the unders for club then too.
Yeah. 100%.
You have fair reasons for that. I cannot attest that whatsoever. I'm really excited to see Claire Hutton in the midfield for the U.S. Women's National Team. She's one of those players that just like... Her first cap, she stood out as a star. And she stood out as somebody that was just like on a different level, on a different page. You don't play that way in your debut. You just don't. And she did. And it was insane. And I'm so pumped to see her continue to develop in this team.
I love your forwards. I think your forwards is one of your strongest that you have. Obviously, we'll talk about the Trinity Rodman of it all momentarily. But I think Michelle Cooper is a great call up. Obviously, who doesn't love Kat Macario? I'm just saying, Yasmin Ryan is a phenomenal talent. You know, Emma Sears is someone I've loved for a while.
Emma Sears is having a great year. Oh, I'm excited to see her on the wing. I hope she plays on one of those. I'm assuming she's going to play on the wing in one of those outside forward roles.
Yeah, and then obviously Ali Sentinel and Alyssa Thompson. Like, that is probably your best set of forwards that you currently have access to. And I think that I can't fault any of those.
And mind you, we still have Sophia Smith and Sophia Wilson and Mallory Swanson. Oops, coming in at some point.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That's available to you now. That is the best. Like, that is going to be a headache-inducing decision. Defender midfield, you've still got some work, but the forwards I like.
I disagree. I think the midfield's still kicking. Sam Coffey. I mentioned Clara Hutton, Rose Lavelle. I'm excited to see Sam Mesa out of Seattle. Jaden Shaw, who's had a resurgence at Gotham. It's been so fun to watch that. Lily Johannes, we mentioned. Obviously, we already talked about Olivia Moultrie, and then also there's Lindsay Heaps, too. Moving along. You mentioned the forwards. Back to the forwards, because Trinity Rodman was called up. There was a very scary moment this past weekend when she went down. It looked like, the worst thing it could have looked like. Luckily, she narrowly evaded that. She has been diagnosed with a sprained MCL. She will not be replaced on the roster, which will now include only 25 players. However, Lola Bonta did get called up after Seattle Raiden midfielder Sam Mesa. Oh, I mentioned I was excited to see her. I forgot she's actually been sidelined. She's a mild hamstring strain, nothing to be super concerned about, but she has been sidelined with that. However, it does give way to the one and only Lola Bonta, who will have the opportunity, by the way, to play in front of her hometown crowd on October 29th. For those who remember, last year, it was all they could really talk about on the broadcast about how Lola Bonta, at 32 years old, was earning her first U.S. Women's National Team call-up. She played in the game against China. Actually, she also appeared against Jamaica. She appeared in both of those. Earned her first cap at 32 years and 74 days. It was all they could talk about on the broadcast, that she was the oldest player to earn her first cap. Hopefully, we won't have to talk about that as much anymore, because it made me feel insanely old for 90 minutes plus. But I mean, I'm so pumped to see Lo in there. So pumped.
You get so excited.
Who doesn't? I mean, it's really like it's Becky Sauerbrunn vibes, where it's just like, everybody, I don't care your allegiance is to Lola Bonta in this moment. Period. The end.
So who are you playing? This is the question. Who are you playing? USA.
23rd of October, we will be taking on Portugal. And then 3 days later, on the 26th, once again, another match against Portugal. And then on the 29th at CPKC Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri, it will be New Zealand. And those are the three. Those are the matches. So everybody mark it up. 23rd, 26th, 29. Just keep adding 3 starting from 23 if you can't remember all of those numbers. I don't know. We talked about like what you were like down and out about. I'm just excited. This has been such a fun era for us since the World Cup, of just getting to see more and more youth, getting to see how Emma Hayes is developing everybody, getting to see more and more a little bit of the tactics every single time that they're developing. It's just been a blast. I'm so excited for it. I'm so sorry that you're not, because right now it's really fun to be a U.S. Women's National Team fan, just saying.
Over to the Champions League roundup. Now, we're not going to go into a full roundup of what happened with the last Champions League results. I know Arsenal fans are breathing a sigh of relief because they did manage to beat Benfica.
I didn't even watch the game. I was just like, I'll look at the scoreline. I can't handle this at all. I did turn on the Barcelona game, and they scored a goal, I think, in the first 40 seconds. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll switch to a different game.
Yes, that happened. But the one that everybody's talking about, and we have to talk about, is the Manchester United game against Atletico, because boy, was that controversial.
It was controversial because of a red card that was given out, and that is all. Actually, both teams ended up receiving a red card, but for United, it was a straight red, and for Atletico, it was Fernandez getting a second yellow in the second half. But yeah, we got to talk about the red card, Allie. The red card in the first half, it was a straight red, and
well, it wasn't originally. This is what we have to talk about.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it was against Jensen, and only the referee knows why.
So it was originally a yellow.
Yeah.
And then ref got pulled over to the screen because they have VAR in Champions League, and it got upgraded to a red. And then all hell broke loose.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, at that point, thank goodness for United, they'd already gone up 1-0. Rolfo just obliterated a half volley, put it in the back of the net in the 24th minute. Just like, when I say obliterated, she smacked the bejesus out of that ball. Like, my goodness, it was rolling. And 1-0 was the final scoreline. And you said all hell broke loose. Well, yeah, United goes down to 10 players with like 3/4 of the game remaining. And so it was exactly what you think it was. It was a full like 70 minutes basically of Atletico Madrid coming at United. It was ugly. It was not a fun watch.
So we have to talk about the aftermath. So for anybody who doesn't know, it was Janssen versus Gio Garbellini. It was what I personally thought was probably a yellow card. Was it a sloppy tackle?
It looked like a classic yellow to me, yeah.
Sloppy tackle, yes.
Sloppy tackle from behind, didn't get the ball.
It then obviously got upgraded to a red. It's now been announced that Gio's ankle has been broken because of the tackle.
It does kind of change things when you hear that,
but
doesn't
it? Doesn't. And no, but this is it. This is the thing. This is what I wanted to talk about, because this is what it's come. Because obviously you've got Atletico fans screaming that Janssen's card gets like upgraded so that she gets more games banned. And,
upgraded from a red card to what? What do they want? A blue card? What are we doing now? Like, come on now. They get the suspension upgraded is what they want. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, that I disagree with. I disagree with. You can't like retroactively be like, well, the opposing player hurt themselves in that tackle and thus, no. We're not doing that. This is sport. That's what happens.
This is what we need to talk about, because it's action versus consequence. Because I remember many years ago, I was at a game and Drew Spence broke Kim Little's leg with a tackle. It was not intentional. It was, it was one of those things that happens in a physical contact sport. And Drew got a yellow, and it got announced that after the game, Kim Little got a broken leg, and everybody was calling for Drew to have it changed to a red card. And the thing is, and it came out then, it doesn't work, and you can't do it.
And it's not justice. It's like people calling for some kind of sense of that's not justice, you guys. This is sports. This is what you sign up for when you set foot on the field, when you decide to be an athlete. Like, some tackles are going to look worse than they are and everything's going to be fine. Some tackles, something's going to go down. Some tackles will be as minuscule as ever and somebody is going to hurt themselves. Sometimes players like Megan Rapinoe are around literally nobody and go down and tear their Achilles in their final game of their career, but nobody did it. Like, stuff happens. That's it,
Well, this is what I want to talk about, because you get penalized for the action, not the consequence. And I think that needs to be reminded for certain fans. It doesn't matter, because if she had got up after that tackle, it still would have been a card and we wouldn't be calling for this. But then fuel got added to the fire because Carolyn jumped in for reasons and made a statement about how, like, she knows that people don't go in to intentionally hurt a person, but we also need to be aware in the fact that now one of us is out for a while the other one only misses one game. It doesn't seem fair.
See, this is why I'm saying people are like trying to make this a justice thing. Like, we're not going to court, guys. We're not going to put them on trial and be like, well, the injury was this bad and so you will get this many. That's not how it works.
That's why I wanted to bring it up. This is why I wanted to bring it up, because this is the conversation that I'm seeing, and I just wanted to remind some people that it is action versus consequence, and you are penalized for the action, not the consequence.
Of course. And I mean, worse tackles have been made and people come out totally okay, and vice versa, like what we're saying. And I get when you're emotional and you're sad that happened. I get where that comes from, but I mean, that's absurd to me. That's like actually crazy. Yeah. Hey, I broke my ankle once because somebody slid into the back of my ankle. And I don't even remember if she got a yellow card or a red card, and it certainly wouldn't have made me feel better if she did. Like that's it. Like it happens, you move on, period, the end. And that's just the price, unfortunately, that you pay sometimes. And I know that sounds harsh, I know that sounds insensitive, but like that's sports. And that is it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. Thank you, as always, for listening or for watching, whichever you're doing. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. And hey, next week, what is it, Allie?
International break.
Let's go. Oh, we'll see you next Wednesday. And for the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.